Hello, everybody. My name is Kathy Brooks. I normally come to you as a psychologist, a professor, a mother, a cat mother, and a citizen of the United States. And so that won't be different today. But I'm coming to you not necessarily speaking on the survival of the Black community, and yet absolutely speaking on the survival of the Black community. I was thinking about some of the ills that we have experienced just being Black. And the thought process was about some of these white people, white scholars even, who have presented themselves to the world as Black when in fact they were not. Um, and initially, when I started hearing about these people, I thought, and this may sound very ignorant and ill informed to you, but I started thinking um, the Black community in America suffers a great deal. And so the very first time I heard of a person pretending to be Black, I wondered what was wrong with them because while I enjoy being Black and I would not be any other way, if I did have the choice, I would still be Black, is what I'm saying. But why would you want to perceive yourself or to portray yourself rather as a people who have been mistreated and kind of tossed aside by society? And at first I wasn't angry with them. I kind of wanted to know what their motive was. What would make you do that? I can't think of anything that will make me portray myself as anything other than who I am. Um, and there's ways of doing all kinds of things, but I could not imagine denying who God made me to be. And then I started reading, and then I started thinking, and those things together are somewhat powerful. So I started thinking about Rachel Dolezal. And initially, she just seemed like someone who had a scam, right? She portrayed herself as Black, and she got scholarship because of being Black, and she she was successful in her career because she portrayed herself as being Black, and she fooled people. She was really good at it. And then even some of the pictures that she had, where she had her hair um, braided, or she had her hair in what we call natural states. Um, and so she was believable. And I couldn't figure out what her motive was beside the scholarship and things like that. Because if she wanted to go to college, she could have gone to college and she could have, gotten student loans and things of that nature. So um, I don't buy that she wanted to just go to school and get a scholarship. Um, this woman also kind of dedicated a portion of her career to being Black and to fighting for Black people with the NAACP. And then she kind of separated herself from her family because she didn't want anybody to cor- correlate things. She didn't want them to know that this was her family and that she in fact was white instead of being Black. And so she went through a lot to do that. And she, even her story, once she came out and admitted to what she had done, her story was not believable. Um, that she saw herself as being Black. She almost described it as a transgender person would describe that they did not feel comfortable in the the sex that they were born, and that they believed that they were born in the wrong skin, so to speak. And that's difficult for a lot of people to understand. But then she was the first person who I remember saying that they didn't feel comfortable in their own skin. And so I thought about her. And every time she came on television, I will admit that I listened to her because her story, um, I didn't really buy it. And so I still wanted to know, I wanted to understand this phenomenon. Because it's almost like you're taking something away from us, and we don't actually have a lot. Now, the black community in America has watched white people mimic us and then monetize it in ways that we would never be able to. And the first person that came to my mind was Elvis Presley, because he listened to black music, he watched black dancers, he internalized that. He did not portray himself to be a black person, but he certainly used everything that black people um, gave him to make himself very successful. Eminem, like I could not understand, I couldn't get with Eminem. Um, just couldn't, because rap, from my understanding, was people talking about the inequalities suffered by the black community, the brutality that black people suffered at the hands of law enforcement. It was people crying out for equality, but not begging. It was people saying, I'm tired of being mistreated, but not crying. And so there was a lot of strength in it. And why I didn't like some of the rap, I will admit that I didn't really like gangster rap, because um there was so much anger in it that it frightened me. And then there was a lot of language that I didn't like, and there's a lot of, disrespect toward women that I don't like. But I understand that it's part of the culture. I understand where it originated. I understand where white label um, presidents and things turned it around, and had black people saying some things that maybe were not part of our culture, and maybe were not things that they originally wanted to say, but they said it because they wanted to make a living, to support themselves, to support their families. Um, and so I get it, but I don't get Rachel. I just don't get Rachel. And I still wanted to think about it. And then my sister called me one day and she told me, oops, there's another person. And this person is an African American professor, studies professor. And she only came out because someone was going to put her out, and allow people to know that she had lied and things like that. And she was working at George Washington University, and she begged our forgiveness for pretending to be someone who understood the plight of black people in America, for pretending that she had pain that she really didn't have. So and then I said, oh my gosh, these are two educated women who successfully stole not just our culture, our look, our talk, our history, everything that makes us us. And then I was looking through um, some articles and stuff, and I I came upon another woman, and at first I didn't recognize her, um, because there's so much that we are inundated with that I have forgotten about this person. But she was said to be blackfishing people because she was accused of pretending to be black a couple of years ago. And her name was, I'm not going to say her last name properly, and it's not because I don't want to, it is because it's a difficult name for me to say. Her name was Aga Brazowska. Brazowska. That may be correct, I don't know. But she had been labeled as a black fish, meaning that she was pretending to be black or mixed race on social media. And they said that she was faking it, and she said that she was not. She said that her lips were her lips. She couldn't take them off. She can't remove her fake butt implants. And so she was saying that she had these characteristics that were previously associated with people who were black, right? And that in and of itself is a stereotype. And yes, people can uh, get lip fillers and butt implants and things like that. And so people just assumed, um, when they found out she was white, that she had been faking all of the aspects of herself. Now, she didn't, um, she said that she didn't do those things. Like she didn't have butt implants and she didn't have fake lips, but she did admit to making herself darker. And she was sort of like this chick on the internet, and she emphasized her butt. Like she had a lot of pictures where from the back, and she kind of, turned around so that people could see her big behind. And these are, those things. So she then went and she got tanned, but said she didn't do it in a malicious way. I don't know. I don't know. See, the thing about black people and black women in particular is that, in general, of course, there are black people who come in all shapes, sizes, all colors, all tones. Some have straight hair, some have kinky hair. Like we come in a full range of beauty, right? And so I'm not going to say that only black people have full lips or only black people have big thighs or butts. But I will say that when I looked at this woman's pictures, she did seem to be emphasizing those things. And she seemed to be emphasizing those things, um, those things that America or the world has recently um, been approving of black women. And when I say approving, I say that because at one point people talked about us pretty negatively about our lips, right? To the point that if you had full lips, people thought that they were not attractive because they talked so much about, full, excuse me, please, full lips. And they talked so much about us having big behinds, right? And it was only the black community that really appreciated these aspects of the black woman. And then the Kardashians came about. Um, and some black women benefited from that, right? Because, they had big butts, whether they were by nature or by nurture. I don't know, and I don't care. Um, but what happened was people started appreciating them, and then black women were like, hey, we've had these things and more for a long time. And then people were appreciating them. Now, all of this stuff has been sexualized, right? So I don't know that I think that is a wonderful thing that people appreciate only the sexual aspects of black women, but it is what it is. Um, but the fact that these women are um, taking aspects of our culture, of our appearances, and doing something that only benefits them. Now, these two women, Rachel Dolezal and Jessica Krug, um, were able to take scholarships, grants. They were in the media. They got attention. They got resources that were supposed to be for Black people, um, who were far more deserving than they were. They can't apologize for that because they can't give it back, right? They can't rationalize the amount of damage that they've done to people because they have kind of what's the word I want? They have broken us down to just being body parts or just having a look, and they have not understood the essence of of the black woman. And I say the black woman only because these were women who were pretending to be black. Because if there were a man, there are aspects of black manhood that they'll never understand. Because if black women are um, mistreated, it is only um, to the detriment of the black man, right? Because nobody is treated worse in America than a black man. So I'm not taking that away from them at all. I'm just saying that it is a dangerous thing for our society for people to pretend to be us and take those resources that were supposed to be for us so that we could change our station in life, and they're going to benefit from it. They can't give that stuff back. You can't give back knowledge. You can't do that. You can't give back your degree. So don't patronize us by saying I'm sorry. Yes, I know that the black community is a forgiving community. And when people say sorry, we say okay, right? So when a restaurant, I'm not calling out any names because, whatever. But when a restaurant doesn't want to serve black people and then they say sorry, we say okay. And for some reason, we go back in there and give them our money, right? Um, Starbucks didn't lose. I did say a name, didn't I? Oops. Starbucks did not lose any money when they didn't want the people sitting in there having meetings. Other people sit in Starbucks and they don't have a problem with that, but they had a problem with the young black people who were sitting in there waiting to have a business meeting. And do black people still go to Starbucks? Yes, because they said sorry and they said they were educating their staff, and then we said, okay, sorry. You're no, they said sorry, and we said okay, right? Because we are forgiving people, and I don't want to say I don't forgive because I believe that is what is required of me as a Christian. God forgave me, I forgive them. I do not forget them. You're trying to take from us, and the bigger picture is lately, people have talked a lot about. People have talked a lot about what we can do for the Black community, in specific, um, as a way of giving back to us. And of course, people don't want to give us money because that will put us on a level playing field, and we really would just go ahead and be great. right? So they don't want to give us the money. So what they want to do, and I've mentioned this before, they've talked about two aspects. They've talked about prison reform. Now, I don't actually know a lot of people who will benefit from prison reform. I'd be very happy if they did actually reform our whole judicial system, from the police to the Supreme Court. To be honest with you, I would be so happy. I'd be ecstatic if they would do that, but it's not going to affect the black community as a whole. And then the other aspect has been they were going to reform the education system, and they were going to allow us to get higher education. Well, let me just say this, and I'm not saying that that's not cool, but right now, today, 2020, black women are the most educated portion of America. So we're already getting our education. Right? And I'm not saying that if you give money or give education to people who don't have an education, that it won't affect in a positive way the black community, because obviously it will affect us positively. Everybody won't be able to take um, that gift, right? It's not going to positively affect everyone whose ancestors were enslaved. So when I look at that, and I think about reparations and the fact that people don't want to give financial reparations. They just want to give what they want to give. But what they want to give will not put us on a level playing field. It will not. There are portions of the black community who are poor, who are uneducated. And if you give education to some part of that portion of the community, believe it or not, they won't be able to use it. Because if the entire system and the structure of America is not reformed prior to that, then those people have to work. And maybe they have children and they won't be able to attend school. So not everybody can take advantage of that educational um, benefit. Not everybody can do it, and guess what else? Not everybody wants to. College is not for everybody, be they black or white or in between. College is not for everybody. You have to want to learn. You have to somewhat enjoy learning, the whole process of learning. You have to understand the benefit of learning and what education can actually do to you and how it can transform your life. Now the truth of the matter is, if you are black and you get a college education, you are not going to immediately be transformed into this upper class person. There's still elements of our structure that are going to hold you back. So education alone will not do it. We are economically behind the eight ball, right? So no matter what you give us, and by the way, we're taxpayers too, right? And our people, our ancestors, sorry, um, did a couple of things. While they maybe were not paying into the system, they earned it by backbreaking work, sun up to sundown. And so they earned for us to have that step up. And I had students say to me, in one class, um, these people were saying to me that um, they thought affirmative action was a horrible thing because, uh, they give extra points to be a police officer on the test. And so regular people don't have a chance. at getting that job. So they give, I guess, irregular people a hand up. So they looked me in my face and said, regular people, as though black people are not regular. And that kind of pissed me off. Okay. And in that same class, um, we are talking about society and how we interact in society and how it affects us and things like that. And we were starting to talk a little bit about police brutality and how that affects our community. Um, and, the guy said, well, black people are always doing, same guy, uh, black people are always doing something. And I said, I just asked him a question. I said, so do you believe that every time a black person is stopped or racially profiled, that they are guilty? And he said to me, yes. Um, so I said, okay, I know who I'm talking to. All right. And then I went to unsuccessfully um, inform him that black people are all black people are not criminals, and everybody who is stopped by the police is not a criminal, and that they are racially profiling people. I've even heard of them stopping a woman when the person they were looking for was a man. So that's asinine to think that every black person is out here committing crimes. Do you know, even though we're about what, 12, 13% of the overall population of the United States, do you know how much crime would happen in America if every black person were a criminal? Every white person is not a racist. Do you know I wouldn't be sitting where I'm sitting right now if every white person was a racist? Somebody being here killing me, I'm sure of it. So you can't generalize like that because it's a dangerous thing. You can't take away from people because who really benefits the most or has benefited the most from affirmative action is white women because they are considered a minority as well, right? And so the wording of the affirmative action law was um, minorities, minorities. That encompasses a lot of people, right? So it was supposed to be for black people, and because we are again a forgiving people, we didn't go out and make a big stink about the fact that most of us did not benefit from affirmative action. And then we have some people like Clarence Thomas and Ben Carson who did benefit from affirmative action and are against it for other people. Okay, so that's a crab in the barrel kind of situation. They are up, but they don't want anybody else to get up and things like that. And, if they're down, they want to pull everybody back down in the barrel with them. They don't want to see anyone succeed. But black people work really hard in this country and have since the very beginning of it. And all of us are not um, forward thinking. All of No race is forward thinking. Like, people are individuals, and we think and we feel because of our personal experiences, because of um, the culture in which we embrace. So if our family culture is tight and our family teaches us about our ancestry and we know a lot about where we came from, we have more feeling about where we're going. And so I think it was in I want to say 1981, that my family successfully formed a family. At first, it was just for a family reunion of people that we didn't know were our family. So I grew up thinking that we had a very small family that consisted of my grandfather as the patriarch, and then his children, and then his grandchildren, and so forth. So it was a really small group because he had four daughters, and none of them had a lot of children. My mother had two, my aunt had two, one aunt had one, and then the other aunt had three children. And so nobody had like really large um, families, individual families, but we all got together, and we all love one another, and we were raised together, and that is who I thought of as my family. So when we went to the original family reunion, um, it was a lot of people. Like it was a lot of people, and I was so amazed by it. And a lot of them lived in Philadelphia, and we grew up not having family in Philadelphia, so that was kind of cool too. And the reason that I'm telling you about this is because um, the cousin, my cousin who who brought the family reunion together also did some research and traced our family back into slavery, and was able to talk about five families that kind of came out of this one person. And so when you hear about your history and what your relatives and your ancestors have gone through, um, then it makes life a little bit different for you, and you look through different lenses, and you want more for yourself. At that time I had dropped out of college, right? I didn't want to go to college. Like I was just living my life, and then I found out about that. And then I was thinking for a really, really long time how I can get myself back into college, because now it was more of a chore to go to college now, because now I'm an adult. Now I have my own, home, and I have bills and things like that. When I was a teenager, I didn't have any responsibilities, and so when I went to college it was just like la 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 for me. And so now I had to think about it. So um, it took about 12 years for me to go back to school and continue my education. But it did not take 12 years for me to start thinking about what all of this meant and why I wanted to um, continue my education, and why I wanted some more things out of life than I did before I came into um, just knowing about this family structure. And so it has grown into being a big it's a big thing. So they've been able to trace some people in Louisiana, some people in Oklahoma, and all over the country. And so it's a wonderful thing to go from having a small family that could fit in one house kind of easily, to having like all of these people who can't fit it in anybody's house. And so it was a wonderful thing. Um, but to know that we had suffered so much, and to know that we had not benefited from a lot of the civil rights um, things that were supposed to be specifically for our family, not just our family, but the black family. It was supposed to be specifically for us because of the way that we have been treated, and the way that our ancestors had worked so hard and been treated so poorly. The way that we have been denied education, the way that we have been denied housing, and although we have homes, um, we were denied living where we wanted to live in a home that we wanted to live in. Like we had to settle for a long time. And and learning about this family structure, this big family structure that spread all over, and our family actually originating in the South. I never knew that we had family members in the South. My mother was born, and her siblings were born in Willow Grove, Pennsylvania. So um, I didn't know any of this. And so learning about it really had an effect on who I am, how I see myself. I think, I hope that I portray myself a little bit differently. Um, and it also affects what I want out of life, right? And so I think that the Black community, not just me, not just my family, because other Black families have family reunion organizations as well. We're not the only ones. But people have done the work. They've traced their family back, even though there are no records um, about the slaves. The slaves were considered uh, property. So the records, if you have to look in the right places and all of that. And to know that everybody went through so much and people have been fighting for so long, so hard just to be great and being denied every time you turn around. No, you can't do this. No, you can't do that. Who do you think you are to tell me what I can and cannot do? Please explain that to me, somebody. Please tell me why I need to ask you if I can be great. When I went to college the first time, um, I was friends with people who were white and I was friends with people who were black. And one of the white girls, her mom came to visit her and she said, "Oh, isn't that nice? They let the black girls or the color girls," she said one of those, stay in the same dorm with the white girls. And that was one of my first encounters with foolishness and racism. It's a racist statement. And all I could do is kind of look at her because I'm saying to myself, what? Like, what? Like, what was she expecting? That there would be cabins out the back for the black people? Like, it wasn't that long ago, ladies and gentlemen. I promise you, it wasn't that long ago. Like, what was she thinking? And so to have an education is a very good thing, and I want all of us to be exposed to that. And I want prison reform and education needs to be reformed because as a professor, I know that students, black, white, and otherwise, come to college and don't know how to write an essay, don't know how to answer an essay question, um, don't know how to write sentences properly. Um, they are prepared for college. And so I know that our education system, our public education system, needs reform. But everybody goes to school, right? So that will not be something that benefits just black people. It will benefit everybody and society as a whole. Because right now we're teetering on illiteracy. Truth. Truth. People are so ill prepared. And that's not just in community colleges, it is in universities. I've had the ability, the I've been able to teach at a lot of universities, a lot of colleges, different levels, community colleges, 4-year colleges, and universities. And I've seen the same thing everywhere. Everywhere. We are ill prepared. So, education is something that is needed for everyone. We right now have a president, which I never claim him. We have a president who can't really read. And I say he can't really read because I've listened to him try to read. And I can tell that he is struggling. And then he just starts to ad lib because it is too much of a struggle. He gets embarrassed. This is all things that I can see through his body language, through everything. So, is that what we want to represent America? And I'm not just talking about him, although, yeah, him. Um, but I'm also talking about, do we want to represent America ourselves and be illiterate at the same time? And so if by chance any of my students ever see this, um, not necessarily talking about you, that's just what it is. When I went back to college, um, I now, have figured into my understanding that that was going on then, because I was able to transfer some of my old credits into school, but I also had to take some of these, what you call, like, remedial classes. There was, I only had to take one, and it was for math. And to me, like, I've always liked math, so I'm good with it. But I was told that it was a 2 semester class, and nobody ever finished in one semester. And um, don't sweat it. And I'm thinking, so am I going to pay for it twice? And so, yeah, that's the answer. And I said, well, that's not going to happen, right? And so, excuse me, I'm looking at the math, and the math is pretty basic. It's some algebra and stuff like that, and I really like that. And so I did complete it in one semester, because why am I going to take it twice if I don't have to? So the course was set up so that you went to class, and the teacher went over whatever, and then there was like a lab, and you could either work on your own if you didn't need any tutoring, or you there were tutors that you could just raise your hand and somebody would come over and answer your question. And then when you got to the end of a section, then there was an exam that you took, and then you moved on. So it was self-paced. And then, when you got to the end of it, that was that. But if you got stuff wrong, um, you went back, and then you started that section over again so that you could get that exam right. So I didn't fail any of the exams at all, and I ended up getting an A in that. And it's not because I'm like some brainiac or something like that. It's because when I went to school, they actually taught us. And so this is another generation's. I'm in my, well, I'm not going to say how old I was, but I was not a traditional age student, right? So this was a next generation where school had changed, and they had started teaching in a way where people weren't grasping all of the things that they needed to. They didn't know how to write anymore, so there was an English course that was um, equated with that math course, but I didn't have to take that. Um, but I've always been a good writer, and I've always been good at math. Um, so, like, at first I was saying, well, what is this? I was going to a college, a small state college initially, my first time out, and now I'm going to a university, and they're giving me something that's easier than what I had at the small college. And so I was thinking about that. And then I said, well, I'm not gonna fail over here. That's not gonna happen. And so, I went on, and I paid attention. And when I thought that, there were some things when professors were talking, it seemed like it was over my head. And then I went to them, and they said, no, you got it. And I thought that it should have been more, something different. But they said I had it. And so I did really well in college. And then um, I didn't know what to do. I was really, really scared to go to undergraduate school. I mean, graduate school. I'm sorry. And I was scared because I had dropped out of school when I was a teenager, and and that made me think um, differently about myself. And so I was thinking, like, my first graduate class, I was thinking all these people actually belong here. Like, these people are bright, and they were talking in class, and they were saying this, this, and this to the professor because this wasn't their first graduate class. It was mine. And they were talking, and I was saying, "Oh my gosh!" Like, and I was so anxious that I got physically ill. I'm not going to tell you all the symptoms of that physical illness, but it wasn't cute. Um, and then, thank God, I met a couple of people, and they were talking to me, and they were like regular people, and I was like, okay, they're regular people. And it's not like I'd never met anybody who went to graduate school. My sister had graduate degrees. Some family members. It's not that I never met people. Not that at all. It's just that I didn't feel that I could do it. I wasn't sure that I could do it. And once I started talking to these people, and I saw that um, I was not unlike these people, and that did have the ability to compete in graduate school, it allowed me to woosah a little bit. Um, and so when I hear about these people who are pretending to be black, when I know all of what we went through, all of what I went through, I'm no longer curious about them. I'm angry at them. I'm angry at them. How dare you? How dare you? How dare you? Who do you think you are to embody or to pretend to embody all that black people have gone through to your amusement? Because you can't fool yourself. You knew that you were white. You didn't want people to know your families. You didn't want your families to be in contact with you in case somebody figured it all out. Like you knew what you were doing. So this was to your amusement, if nothing else. How dare you take a butt picture and just make your skin a little darker? How dare you? There was a woman, I can't remember her name, back um, when right after slavery was abolished, and she had big breasts, and she had a really big backside, and they had her out. This is a black woman, and they had her out on display, sort of like a carnival. I can't remember her name, but I can picture it in my head. Um, and I kind of told you guys in the beginning that I'm not really good at names. So it's not because I don't think she was important, because I do. It's just because I'm not really good at names. So this woman was on display, and she just kind of traveled around, sort of like a carnival, like the bearded lady or something, because she had these pronounced body parts. And so, how dare you make a living off of what my people died for? How dare you? So, um, it's late. It's about 2 o'clock in the morning. I'm going to get myself ready and go to bed because tomorrow morning we're going to get up and start it all over again. Thanks for listening to me. Please come back. I'm not going to be probably talking about people pretending to be black, but you never know. Um, but please come back because, ladies and gentlemen, I still believe in my heart of hearts that we will survive. So please like, please subscribe to my YouTube page. But please put some comments down there. Please tell people, please share, and if you don't like what I'm saying or the way that I'm saying it, please feel free to comment and let me know what you don't like. I'm not saying that I'm going to change myself, but it may be informative and maybe it will make me um, aware of some things that I am unaware of. So, have a great day. Be blessed.